On this episode of Locked On Angels, the Angels win a series at home. First time they have since September? What the heck is going on? They won on the bat of Zach Neto, who apparently calls himself Big Papa. I love it when you call him Big Papa. Hey, let's talk about that game last night and so much more. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Throw your hands in the air if you're an everydayer. How about that? Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. Hey, we've won 2 in a row. We've got to get excited about something around here, right?
I hear you.
We want to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content. Here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. Become a Locked On everyday. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. I love that you're shaking your head at me. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, it's our third season here at Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball Monday through Friday with you. On today's show, Ben Joyce has returned. We haven't seen him in a game yet, but he's got some changes that he believes are going to be different this second time around, like what was that? Step by step.
Step by step.
Yep. There you go. And then we've got one stat that shows how important Logan O'Hoppy's pitch framing has been for the Halos, and maybe even Matt Thaiss as well. We'll talk about that coming up. Mike, we got to recap this game from last night against the Padres. The Angels won this one 4-2, and according to everydayer Nick Vlahakis, we are 2-0 in the John standing desk era. There we go, boys.
You can
Let's
never
go.
sit down again, John.
Never
The
sitting
Angels are
down. I'm like,
2-0.
what was that? Nolan Shawnuel did like, I'm going to stand all day. What was that for again? I'm not sure what that was for.
Yeah, it sounds like a good story, though. Angels won 4-2 last night. Padres got on the board first in this game, however. It was the top of the third. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis were the only offense in the last 2 games for the Padres. Yeah. Machado got an RBI single, but then the Angels responded in the bottom of the third. Johnny got their first run. Guillorme walked, and then with 2 outs, Rengifo singled to center, and the game was tied 1-1 at that point. Then top of the 5th, Joe Adell, who all of a sudden is a great defensive player, had a great diving stop in right field. And we did mention his defense yesterday. 7 defensive runs saved, Johnny, for the season. He had 9 in May. 9 in May. And so the guy has really been playing some good defense, showed more of that yesterday. Top 6 after getting 2 walks and with a runner on, Patrick Sandoval, who was the starter in this game for the Halos, walked Solano after getting ahead of him. It extended the inning. It made him throw a few more pitches. He was hoping to get out of it then, but he faced Cronenworth with 2 outs. With 2 on and 2 outs. And Sandy got him to ground out on a slider. It was pitch 100, Johnny. And Sandoval had a really good game last night. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 7 Ks, 100 pitches. Listen to this, 70 strikes.
Let's
of
go.
his 100 pitches, 70 strikes. And Johnny, you've got some deeper stats about Patrick Sandoval. Share those.
Yeah, can I just talk about real fast? 1 walk, Mike.
Yeah.
That is huge for Patrick Sandoval. Look at the difference it makes for him. I know he had to expend a lot of pitches in that last inning, but look at the difference that makes. Yep. And he gets through 6, 1 earned run. Fantastic. Mike, Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register actually had an article about Sandoval using a sweeper more often. Now, I was nervous when I opened up this article because in the past, the sweeper has not been great,
right?
for Sandoval.
Not been great.
Listen to this. He started experimenting. Jeff Fletcher writes that Sandoval started experimenting with the pitch last year, and he sprinkled in a few of them earlier this season. He had only thrown just 15 in his first 10 starts. Then he threw 12 on May 24th and 21 in his last start on May 30th against the Yankees. Sandoval said it grades out well. It's probably my best pitch based on the profile of the pitch. The whiff rate on Sandoval's sweeper coming into last night's game was 33%, which is second only to his 40% rate on the changeup. He's gotten a strikeout 25% of the time. He's thrown the pitch with 2 strikes, which is the highest of any of his pitches. Last night, the sweeper got a ground out to Luis Ariz, a swinging strikeout from Jake Cronenworth, and then a fly out to Jackson Merrill. It's pretty good for only throwing 10 sweepers in the game last night. You know what else I noticed, Mike? 25 four-seam fastballs, according to StatCast from Patrick Sandoval. And those were good too. They had some movement.
Really good.
It wasn't that crappy, get rid of that four-seam fastball at the very end.
He hit 97, John, last night with his fastball. That was incredible.
Yeah. Brent McGuire, Locked On Angels Hall of Famer, of course, around these parts, said the Angels starters have allowed 1 run in fewer in 3 straight outings. Canning, Anderson, Sandoval. For the second time this season, Canning, Anderson, Sandoval, and Soriano did it in 4 straight outings from May 15th to 19th. Hey, Soriano's on the mound against the Padres today, so maybe do that one more time. That would be really nice. But then take us to the
repeat history, right?
Yeah,
Exactly. Okay, so bottom 7 after the 7th inning stretch, the Angels got 2 on with no outs. They even won a review, Johnny, at first base.
I know.
Logan O'Hoppe was safe at first, and that was a close call, but he was safe, and the whole stadium knew that he was safe. 33,000 plus people knew that. And then Adele walked on 4 pitches. I really like this at bat. Very patient, didn't swing at junk. The at bat that I didn't like was the very next at bat, Mickey Moniak.
I knew you were going to say that.
He swung at the first jump pitch, and he just looks like he's hot and ready, man. He's coming out like a Little Caesar's pizza. I'm going to steal your line because that's exactly what he did in this at bat. Swung at everything. The runner was thrown out at home because Moniak did ground out. He wasn't going to hit, by the way. Pilar was on deck, and then they went from a left-handed pitcher to a right-handed pitcher, and so they decided not to make the adjustment. John, looking back, would you have gone with Pilar in that moment anyway?
Oh, 100 times, yes. And it flies in the face of a lot of everydayers who feel like Moniak should be getting the tries up there, and Pilar doesn't have a future with the team and whatnot. But I want to win games. I want to win. So Pilar is probably the best option in that moment, even though it's a righty-righty matchup. Look, he's immune to the splits. And when he came to the Angels, you and I looked at the splits and said, he'll probably get at-bats against lefties. Well, so far, the last time I checked, I should say, which was probably like a week ago, he's batting like 400 against lefties and 300 against righties. He's just got ridiculous numbers. So he's immune to the splits. But here's the thing. Zach Neto. Yeah. God bless that guy.
Big Papa.
Big Papa came up next, hits a hanging slider, Mike, out of the zone. And he pulls it over the head of Profar out in left field, and it's a 2-run double. And it gave the Halos a lead. The two at bats later, it was Nolan Shawnuel, and there was a wild pitch, and Mickey Moniak was able to come home from third on that one. So it made it 4-1. That was fantastic. Then Luis Garcia came in and faced his former team in the 8th inning. And both Thaiss and Machado reached base with runners on second and third. Garcia strikes out the next 2 batters. Wash gave him a little pep talk, tell Garcia, hey, I believe in you. But then he faced Cronenworth, who singled. That made it 4-2. Then Hunter Strickland came in to face Ha-Sung Kim. Got him to pop up on a 3-2 pitch to Neto. Strickland has stranded all 12 inherited runners this season. That guy considered retirement before the season, and now he's finding second life with the Halos, kind of like Pilar is finding a second life. Some good trade options and trade candidates there for us, Mike. But take us to the bottom of the 8th where the Angels kept it going. Yeah,
Rengifo led off with a single to left field. Now, I noticed this a lot more recently. He's going the other way, and that's a big reason why he's hitting over 300. He's slapping that ball like Luis Ariz to left field, just over the third baseman or just over the shortstop. By the way, once he got on, the Angels had this trend last night of grounding into double plays. They had 4 of them. Taylor Ward had 2 of them in this game. And so that ended that inning. And so the Angels weren't able to really capitalize on anything. However, 9th inning, Carlos Estevez comes in, and John, another 1, 2, 3 clean inning for Carlos Estevez. So maybe he got all of the giggles out and the shakes out earlier this season instead of late in the season, and maybe all the injuries are getting out early in the season instead of late in the season, and maybe we can go on a run, John. Like, isn't that the Angel hopium, right? The Angels win a series at home. They've taken
First one.
2 of 3. They're 23-38, 9-21 at home, and it was a really great victory. Big question for you, Johnny. Pitching staff, starters specifically, are pitching really well this year. I know they've had a couple of blow-ups, but they're pitching really well recently. Even Sandoval, the hitting has really struggled. So if you had to choose, would you rather have it this way, or would you rather have the hitters coming through and the pitchers struggling?
No, I still like the way that they're winning games, even if it's, 2-1 or 4-2 or whatnot. I mean, look, they're finding ways to manufacture runs, and that's what I've appreciated about these last 2 games. It's not they're hitting the bombs, they're not hitting the home runs like they typically do. And even though home runs are exciting, it takes a lot of work to manufacture runs. And the fact is, they had that bases loaded, no out situation. I was shocked, and I was also scared that they were going to waste it, and they didn't waste it. And Zach Neto was able to come through in that moment. So it's just good to see, though. That's fun to me. And maybe I'm just a baseball nerd or a longtime fan, but that kind of stuff is more fun to me. Now, if he hits a grand slam, that's great. That's fun.
Right.
But seeing your guys come through in moments like that and just clutch up like Zach Neto did is just really entertaining to me, whether it's a home run or driving in 2 with that awesome RBI double that he got. And again, that hanging slider reached for it. It was out of the zone. He's able to pull it over Profar's head. That was just really awesome to see.
We talk a lot about like clutch performances. We talk a lot about runners in scoring position. The thing that I really appreciate about Neto, and it's just a small sample size, but 4 for 9 with bases loaded, like that's really huge. And somebody that maybe perhaps has that clutch gene within him that the Angels haven't had for a really long time, even with Mike Trout and even with Shohei Ohtani. And so maybe Zach Neto is going to be the guy that ends up carrying this team into the future, being the guy that can help make sure that they're not just going to get crushed in a game, or they're not going to leave runners on in a game. Perhaps he's somebody that could be the guy that comes through, a la Derek Jeter, a la Edgar Martinez, some of those guys, right?
I'm going to look this up here in a second while you're talking about our friends over at Game Time here in a second. I feel like, did Ibar have that clutch gene? I feel like Ibar from the shortstop position. I'm going to look that up and see. I'm going to handle that while you're taking care of business for us. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. The Angels are playing the Padres again tonight at the Big A, 6:38 Pacific time. Jose Soriano is on the mound. Hopefully we see the good Soriano. Yeah. He's been, back and forth and still figuring things out, but it would be great to see them continue that trend of 1 earned run or less. Of course, you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels, see if they can go for the sweep tonight. That would be pretty great.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Coming up on Locked On Angels, Ben Joyce is back with the team, and he made some fundamental changes that he thinks are going to make him very successful at the major league level. We'll talk about what those are in just a minute.
Well, now that the Angels are winning, you're going to need to go to a game. All right. So all of you that are everydayers, you're going to need to go to, it's 2 wins. I mean, this is a miracle, right? Miracle after miracle after miracle. So you're going to need to download the Game Time app right now. And then you're going to need to look at the Game Time app and figure out what game you're going to go to, because Angels are winning and you have to go and support them, right? I know a lot of you are probably really mad at me right now, but here's what's great about Game Time. They are the authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, and they get your tickets a whole lot faster and a whole lot easier. With Game Time, you can get last-minute tickets. You can save up to 60% off all sorts of tickets, not just for sports. It could be concerts and comedy and theater and so much more. They also have exclusive in-app flash deals on select seats ahead of the game or whatever event you're going to. And then the zone deals are great. You choose the section, Game Time chooses the seats, and then they have all-in pricing. This feature is fantastic, so you know what you're paying for right up front. No hidden fees, no secret agenda. Game Time is on your side, and they got panoramic views of where your seats are going to be. So you're not sitting in front of a pole or you're not sitting in front of a sign. You know that you're going to be able to see the game or the concert or the comedian or whatever it is that you're going to. And then the lowest price guarantee is probably my favorite. Game Time is going to guarantee the lowest price, but if you find something lower, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, LOCKEDONMLB is the promo code. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. So download the Game Time app right now. Go ahead. You can do it right now. John, just hit pause. We'll just let them download it right now, and then you're going to get your tickets. You're going to have a blast, and Game Time is going to help you get there. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. If you haven't done so already, check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program just for you, our everydayers, to bring you the biggest stories across the sports world. Brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, news, and streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Speaking of your team every day, the Padres and the Angels are back at it tonight, 6:38 Pacific time. Catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just search Angels. Mike, are you ready for these numbers from Eric Ibar?
Yes, give me.
Okay, here we go. With runners in scoring position, he was a career 267 hitter.
Okay.
But with the bases loaded, 125 plate appearances, a 299 batting average over his career. Never had a grand slam, though. Isn't that crazy? Never had a grand slam from Eric Ibar, but pretty clutch. When I look at these numbers, everything's pretty high 200s, low 300s for Eric Ibar over his career. So there we go. Eric Ibar, Zach Neto can channel the spirit of Eric Ibar with runners in scoring position.
I love the good old grand slam, but I think sometimes a home run can be a rally killer in an inning. And so when you have like an Eric Ibar who's slapping the ball everywhere, scoring a couple of runs, it keeps the lineup moving forward and builds momentum. So there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. And so Zach Neto's double was an example of that. That guy came up clutch last night. Speaking of clutch, Ben Joyce is trying to work on his clutch gene. He's trying to get better. He's trying to be a guy that we can count on, not just randomly out of the bullpen, but in the back of the bullpen. So he is back, was called up after Reed Detmers was optioned to AA. AAA. Joyce was in AA. And the reason why he struggled and didn't make the major league roster out of spring training was because, this is from Wash, he said he's a young kid with a strong arm that doesn't exactly know what to do with it or how to use it. And so they wanted him to work on that. They wanted him to work on his walk. So last year, Johnny, remember, he came up, had a bit of a cup of coffee in the major leagues, 5.40 ERA in 12 big league games last season, 10 walks in 10 innings. So they wanted him to go and work on that this year in AA. And in his games in AA, he had a 4.26 ERA with 11 walks and 34 strikeouts in 19 innings. But here's what's really eye-popping and catches your attention. He's shown some signs of improvement. He has a 1.59 ERA with 21 strikeouts and just, count them, 3 walks in his last 11 1/3 innings. And so
that's huge.
Ben Joyce was asked, like, hey, so why do you think that things are going to be different this time and not the same as they were last time? Johnny, what did Joyce say?
He said, I'm trusting my stuff. Hey, Detmers and Joyce need to connect on learning how to trust their stuff. What this means for him is this. Joyce said, I know that I can throw my stuff in the zone and get outs. Mike, another fundamental change is he has been able to go 2 innings. He's gone back-to-back nights, which is something that he's never done before.
Yeah. And
so that's crucial. The slider, changeup, and fastball combination is starting to really gel. So when you're getting 103 thrown at you, and then all of a sudden you got to deal with a changeup or a slider, I mean, good grief, that would be just a very difficult at bat when you're facing that. Not only are you facing 100 plus from his fastball, but then you're going to get some sort of breaking ball, and you got to be ready for the fastball, or you got to sit and wait on the breaking ball. So Ben Joyce has some options now, which was much needed. I think that he was pretty much a 2-pitch pitcher there for a while. But Mike, this is what development is. This is why.
Oh,
Ben Joyce is
this?
That's what it is, Mike. Did you know that?
Great, John. Thanks for pointing that out. Because I don't know. I'm an Angel fan. I don't know.
Yeah, no kidding. The fact that he went down to AA and worked on some of these things that he needed to work on going back-to-back nights or going 2 innings in a row or developing that third pitch that's going to help him. That's what it's all about. And so I'm glad that he got the time that he did down there. I am anxious to see what he looks like at the major league level. They haven't had to use him just yet. I imagine we might see him tonight, considering Matt Moore and Strickland and even Estevez went 2 innings, Monday and Tuesday, which, by the way, did we talk about the fact that Estevez got 2 saves in 2 nights?
We did not. We talked about
glossed over that.
And that he did it in back-to-back nights. So that was
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. Listen, Wash said that Joyce can be used on back-to-back days or for 2 innings. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
How do you think they use him? Considering some of the arms that they've used over the last few nights, do you think we see him 7th, 8th, or does he close, Mike? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if they have him close, but I think that in a regular game where everybody's available, I think you ease him in. I think you don't throw him into the deep end right away. You don't have to. That's the good news. You don't have to. I know Estevez has struggled, but his last 2 games, he's been a whole lot better, which, by the way, it sounded like Barry Enright is doing some work on the back end to make sure that Estevez is ready on the front end, meaning that after he's done with a game, they're not really having him do all of the workouts that he was doing to stay fresh last year. They're actually easing that, and they're doing more work as he's preparing to come in. So I love that philosophy. And perhaps they're going to do that with Ben Joyce as well, which is why he's able to go back-to-back days or 2 innings, right? 1st and 2nd or 7th and 8th inning or something like that. I think that he's going to be somebody that they ease in, and then perhaps he's your 7th inning guy. Perhaps he comes in your 8th inning, depending on what the strategy might be and depending on what's happening in that inning. But I would ease him in. I wouldn't throw him into the deep end right away.
Yeah, I imagine it will be a 7th inning sort of situation. I can easily see Soriano maybe getting 6 innings tonight, and then they go 7, 8, 9, and Joyce is involved in that somewhere. So I'm excited. I fully expect that we'll see Ben Joyce at some point in tonight's game.
One of our longest everydayers is FanDuel, and they are here to help you enjoy all kinds of sports. Playoffs are happening right now in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring
playoffs.
A big win. Playoffs? What are those, right? What's development? What's playoffs? We don't know as Angel fans. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. John, that's $150 to bet on the spreads, the money lines, the player props, and so much more. And we've mentioned this before, but if you're new to Locked On Angels, here's what you need to know about FanDuel. They have all of the explanations on spreads, money lines, player props, and how to do all of this on their website, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go there, and if you go to that website, FanDuel.com/lockedon, they're going to know at FanDuel that you came from Locked On Angels. So it'll be great. It'll be good for you. It'll be good for us. It'll be good for them. Make every playoff shot count at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs?
We're not.
Playoffs?
We're not.
Mike, some good news in terms of catching. Lots of discussion about Ohapi's defense coming into this season. And it wasn't, we've talked about it before on our show over the offseason. Definitely an area where he could have improved this season. And it seems like he is improving back there based on what we're about to talk about. And, you know, his defense and its impact on the starting staff, there's been a lot of discussion around that. Part of his defense is his pitch framing. That was an area that was lacking. So essentially, how many strikes is he stealing for his pitchers? Or if it's a obvious strike that maybe curves out of the zone behind the dish and the umpire thinks it's a ball, is he getting those calls too?
Right.
And so part of his defense being that pitch framing, and according to the stats here, Ohapi, along with Matt Thaiss, are actually helping the Halos pitchers get more strikes when they should be called balls. So you've got the stats in front of you, Mike. This is really interesting. We've got the stats on Ohapi, but you've also got stats on calls when the Angels are hitting. Why don't you share those first?
Yeah. Okay. So when the Angels are batting, here's what's interesting. They, when it comes to calls out of the zone that were called strikes. So these balls were out of the zone, but an umpire called it a strike. When the Angels are batting, they've had 191 of those calls. It was a ball outside, called a strike. This is entering last night's game. 191. Now, here's here's what happens when they're at the plate and a ball is in the zone and it's called a ball. They've had 165 of those. So
wow.
They are negative 26 when they're at the plate, meaning that they've had more balls called strikes than they've had strikes called balls.
Good
Are you following
grief.
me?
Yes, yes.
Now,
I'm not surprised.
Offensively, that's terrible. We don't like that. But John, on the defensive side, the numbers actually flip. So here's what's interesting about that. Out of the zone calls strikes. So these are balls. They should have been balls, but they're called strikes. The Angels got 178 of those. Of pitches that were called balls that were called, yes, they should have been called strikes, but they were called a ball. The Angels actually have 146 of those. They have a plus 32 percentage in that. So that means that they've had 32 more balls that were called strikes than strikes that were called balls, meaning that Logan O'Hoppe and Matt Thaiss are stealing strikes for their starting five and are stealing strikes for this bullpen. They are pitch framing excellently. Now, they're not the best in the league. The Yankees are the best in the league. They have a plus 123 in balls and strikes.
Are they the best? Are they the best in the league, or just the umpires? Oh, it's the Yankees. I'll give them
according to the
free
stats,
pass.
They lead the league. How about that? They lead the league in that. But
that's what I'm saying, though. Like the
Yeah.
Yankees lead the league. I wonder why. Wink, wink.
Right.
There's no juice balls given to Aaron Judge to set a new home run record. There's no nudging and trying to help out these pitchers with the Yankees. Of course not.
No, but the Angels on defense with their pitch framing are plus 32. So they have stolen 32 strikes for their starting five. When they're on offense, they have had 26 strikes stolen and should have been called balls, but they had 26 strikes stolen from them. And that's interesting on the offensive side. Defensively is what we're talking about with Logan O'Hoppe and Matt Thaiss. Love that these guys are working on their pitch framing. And if we have a grander picture at this, Johnny, pitch framing and robo umps and the challenge system, like I think pitch framing goes away possibly if there's a challenge system, or if there are robo umps. What do you think?
It definitely goes away if there's automatic balls and strikes. If there's a challenge system, I think it sticks around. I know that you can challenge, but maybe a hitter has already used their challenge. They lost it.
Right.
Maybe they don't realize that it should have been called a ball when it was called a strike. Situations like that. There's a lot more human element, if that's your thing, involved with the challenge system. So, but if it moves to automatic balls and strikes, that's definitely going to change pitch framing. And catchers have talked about that over the last few years. I think even Max Stassi had some opinions about that while he was still an Angel. Mike, I'm looking at these these numbers here, and I'm thinking about some of the teams with good catchers on the team.
Yeah.
I look at the Orioles, and they're -5 in terms of stealing strikes. So they're actually under that. I think about the Brewers. They have one of the Contreras brothers back there. I forget, is it Williams, or I can't remember if it's Williams. I think it is Williams. -23. So they're not stealing any strikes either. So these numbers are really, really interesting. Yes, the Guardians, that makes sense. They've got guys like Austin Hedges back there, and the Yankees, of course. That's interesting.
They've got CB Buckner back there, and they've got
no, he was first base last night. I think he's the reason why they had the bad call. That call over there that got overturned.
By the way, Tatis did swing last night. I don't know if you saw the game, that part of the game, but they said he didn't swing on a strike, and it was a ball, and he ended up swinging. And
that's okay. He's on my fantasy team, so I'll take a single. As long as he doesn't score, I'll take a single. Yeah,
great.
But listen, these are really interesting numbers. So again, just to rewind here, pitches called strikes out of the zone. The Angels catchers are stealing more of those. And you know what's funny? Over the offseason, we talked about the fact that Matt Thaiss, not the best in the league, but he was actually pretty decent at that last year. But we all know Logan O'Hoppe has the bulk of the catching duties. So the fact that they're, where are they at again? Plus 32.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good for Logan O'Hoppe considering where he was last year, because we've talked about his pitch framing numbers before and they were not great. And it was like, hey, maybe that's something he can get better at. Mike, I go back to what you always say. It seems like O'Hoppe is really prioritizing his defense this year.
Yeah.
Wants to be a good catcher for his pitchers, wants to be supportive of his pitchers, wants them to succeed. I still contend, and I know that you came up with this thought, I think that's probably what's preoccupying him the most this season. I know the offense hasn't quite been where it was when he started out last year and where he ended up at the end of last year. I still contend, and I'm with you on that. I think the defense is taking up most of his time. I think the offense will come around, but look, This is, we keep saying it this week, the Halos Learning Experience 2024.
Right.
And this is the learning experience. These guys are growing right in front of our eyes, and they're learning on the job, which is not easy, but it is happening. We came into the season thinking that more behind the scenes stuff was going to help raise the floor of this team. And in some ways it is, but in some ways the behind the scenes stuff that they work on, on their fielding drills and whatnot, doesn't always translate over to the actual game. And so it has been good to see them play 2 clean, fundamental games, smart baseball IQ games in a row to get these wins over the Padres. And we are seeing them grow on the field in certain areas and struggle in other areas. But to know that Logan O'Hoppe has been improving his defense this season, I think that's a big win for the Halos.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Angels play the Padres, 6:38 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, find today's episode, hit that like button. It really helps us out. And get in the comments section, because that's the best place to interact with Mike and I. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
Hey, did you hear that the Halo players have lost their screen time privileges? Only the coaches have the iPads now. So what happened? Why is this happening? We're going to discuss that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right. Looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother, Mike.
Who downloaded this app? Logan? And my name is Mike, and that's my brother, John.
All right, friends. Looking forward to that conversation, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Disney Plus? Who downloaded Disney Plus on this app?
Who's watching The Acolyte during the game?